Yo, 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 it's your boy Funky Fresh Fanta. And today, we're talking about wait, what was that? Anyways, today we're talking about the best anime of the 90s. We'll stick with the usual rules for this. Only shows and movies that I've seen to completion are on the list. Like I always say, don't worry. I watch almost everything every year, so all genres and demographics will be represented fairly. Except for kids shows, unfortunately. There's a lot of Doraemon in the 90s, I'm not going to be talking about much of it. And of course, no restrictions on how many times a series can show up on the list. You may see a sequel series or a follow-up movie if it's good enough. Starting with 1990, and fun fact, did you know the first ever search engine named Archie was released this year? There's still a version available in 2024. Don't say I never taught you anything. But moving on to anime, the 90s were the beginning of the anime boom. Anime had been releasing in the US since the 60s, but a few key shows, which you may or may not see on this list, pushed it into another stratosphere. Dragon Ball Z World's Strongest was a decent movie, but we would get better Dragon Ball movies as the decade moved along. Samurai Pizza Cats definitely released, and I make sure to avoid it at all costs. The best anime of 1990 is Record of Lodoss War. This fantasy franchise started with somebody writing down the events of their D&D campaign and turning it into a replay. Now, a replay is not the same thing as a novel. It's, like I said, an account of what happened in the session. Anyway, in 1990, they turned these replays into a classic anime with good action and interesting characters. One day, I want to read some of these replays on the channel, so let me know if you're interested. Drop a comment. Moving to 1991, anime continued to grow steadily, with more and more shows getting released direct to video in the US and getting success, causing the anime medium as a whole to be more successful and more accepted by the American public. You know, I'm not even going to lie to you. I've only seen like 4 or 5 anime that came out this year. It sounds like a lot, but I promise you it's really not. 2 of them are Dragon Ball movies. Cooler's Revenge wasn't great and Lord Slug wasn't good. Nadia, The Secret of Blue Water is a criminally underrated masterpiece, and I don't know why. We hear about quite a few classics, but not this one. For me though, the best anime of 1991 is Arslan Senki. Another fantasy anime. You know, it's kind of interesting how prevalent these more European-ish fantasy series have been throughout the history of anime. Of course, we still have them now. In fact, we probably see them now more than ever. Pretty much every isekai anime that comes out every season is a Tolkien-esque elves, goblins, dragons fantasy world. But I'm surprised to see this back in the day as well. Next, we're on to 1992. Now this is a year I'm more familiar with. Before we get to the shows though, a quick history lesson. In 1986, due to a number of factors which I won't get into too much on this video, that's not really the purpose, but in 1986, everybody was buying loans, everybody was getting stocks, it was a great time financially, I'm sure. But in 1992, that bubble ended up bursting. No more amazing economy for a while. With that brief history lesson out the way, let's see how the bubble bursting affected anime in 1992. If you like Tokyo Revengers or Windbreaker or any type of delinquent anime like that, Roku Denashi Blues is better. I've never seen the anime, but the manga is truly amazing. Man, Doraemon and Dragon Ball Z keep terrorizing me with new movies every year. Take a break. Super Android 13 is one of my personal favorites though, even though I see a lot of people talk down on it for some reason. Listen to me when I say this, Masakazu Katsura is one of my favorite manga authors ever. I love Eyes, I love Zetman, and I love Shadow Lady. But Video Girl I just didn't do it for me. The OVA just was not it. It wasn't on the same level of quality. The way they've been remaking and redoing older anime properties like Ultimate Muscle, Pluto, don't be surprised when you see an Ushio and Tora remake on Twitter or YouTube. From what I can tell, it's pretty popular over in Japan, but you never hear anybody in the West talk about it. The winner for this year though has to be Yu Yu Hakusho. Sailor Moon was really the only other competition, but Sailor Moon doesn't really kick into gear until much later. Not to say it starts bad, but those later arcs and the later shows they come out with, that's what makes Sailor Moon legendary. Now Yu Yu Hakusho comes out the gate swinging. It has one of the best opening theme songs ever. It has amazing writing. Anything Togashi is writing is always going to be amazing. And the fight scenes, well, we already know those are hitting. This is one of the best anime released throughout all the 90s, not just 1992. After that, It's 1993. I feel this is where we really start to feel the effects of the bubble bursting. This is a pretty weak year overall, but there's still a few good things here. Ninja Scroll was my first introduction to adult anime with crazy amounts of violence and nudity. Slam Dunk released this year, and along with its manga, it helped revolutionize basketball in Japan. I don't think the anime is particularly rewatchable. It's kind of dated. Not everything that's good needs to be something you can go back and revisit. That JoJo OVA that gets brought up from time to time in the fandom, it has some of the most fluid animation I've ever seen. But my top pick for 1993, this is gonna be controversial, but it has to go to Dragon Ball Z Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan. I know some of you are looking at me crazy, like only 3 honorable mentions for 1993? Man, I told you it was a weak year, only a few good things. Anyways, Broly is the second best Dragon Ball movie ever, and it has probably the second best villain. He's so good that they brought him back not 1, but 2 times in Super. Who else can say that? Let's move on to 1994, and this is gonna sound a little dramatic and a little crazy after I just put Broly as the best anime of 1993, but Bio Broly is genuinely one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. There were a lot of anime based on fighting games too. Street Fighter 2, Fatal Fury, Samurai Showdown. I mean, it makes sense, right? Fighting games already have a colorful cast built in, interesting locales, crazy backstories. It's so easy to adapt it to an anime. I wonder if we'll be seeing this a lot more. Speaking of video game adaptations, Final Fantasy Legend of the Crystal was a monumental disappointment to me the first time I watched it. I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy. It's probably my favorite franchise of all time. But this anime is just not it, man. It doesn't look like Final Fantasy. It doesn't feel like Final Fantasy. You could have called this something else. I would have just went with it. If you've been watching my channel for a while, I've told y'all a couple of times you need to go watch Blue Seed. Make sure to get on it. While you're at it, make sure to watch the best anime of 1994. Baki the Grappler. I really like this anime, even more than the Netflix adaptation. It really captures the feel and the aesthetic of Baki perfectly. Now entering 1995. This is a stacked year for sure. Slayers, Gunsmith Cats, Gundam Wing. I don't care what y'all say about Golden Boy, that's a pure classic. It's so easily rewatchable. More Dragon Ball movies, of course, what'd you expect? Although for once, both of them are great. Well, Wrath of the Dragon is great. Fusion Reborn is excellent. In my opinion, it's the #1 Dragon Ball Z movie, hands down. But no, it's not the #1 movie of 1995, don't worry. I already gave 1 spot to a Dragon Ball Z movie. I already know that's gonna make anime fans furious. They look down on shonen. I'm not trying to make them even more mad. It would be the #1 anime if it wasn't for this one little indie project called Neon Genesis Evangelion. I think I'll put that one at #1. Really, it was between that and Ghost in the Shell. And I like Ghost in the Shell, the whole franchise, movies, shows, games, even that live action wasn't terrible. But to me, and to anime culture as a whole, Neon Genesis Evangelion is way more important and way better. Following that is 1996, and question, how do you follow up such a stacked year for anime? The answer? You come up with another stacked year. Honestly, I don't think we'll be seeing any more mediocre ones. Detective Conan is, well, what's better than a classic? Right, legendary. I've caught a couple of the movies, but just like Lupin the Third, it's a little tough to keep up with. But even with that working against it, Detective Conan is still going strong. It's still popular. So strong, in fact, that it got not 1, but 2 movies in 2024 alone. Like I said, legendary. Dragon Ball Path to Power sucked bad, like super bad. It wasn't mid, it wasn't average, it was just horrible. Dragon Ball GT is overhated, but not amazing. Vision of Escaflowne is really amazing. It had a profound impact on me, but I think I'll save that for its own retrospective video. Rurouni Kenshin came out this year, and I'm positive that's probably going to be most people's pick for 1996. I've always liked Kenshin, but I never loved it, and I definitely don't like the creator either. So I think this year's going to Boys Over Flowers. I didn't realize until recently how big of a phenomenon Boys Over Flowers really is. First of all, it's the best-selling shoujo manga by a single author. That fact, and the amount of live-action adaptations it's had, should tell you everything. It's not the best romance manga ever in my opinion, but it's not far from the top. At worst, it's top 3. After that one, it's 1997. Hold on, let's go through this slow. I'm getting a little overwhelmed. We had Perfect Blue, Flame of Recca, Princess Mononoke, and End of Evangelion? I guess the effects of the bubble bursting are finally starting to wear off. Revolutionary Girl Utena is another anime I hold dear to my heart, and it significantly changed how I view anime and what genres I watch. I don't think I even need to say one word praising Pokemon. If you're watching this channel today, you probably grew up watching Pokemon in some capacity, one of the shows. The best anime of this year has to be Berserk though. As we've seen in recent years, Berserk is actually a pretty tough property to adapt, but I think this anime does it justice. If you haven't seen this adaptation, or anything Berserk in general, I urge you, pause this video and go watch it, you will enjoy it. Wow. Just looking at the shows released in 1998, I know all of you are gonna hate my pick. I love Trigun, and it's a show I revisit from time to time. The fact that it's barely 5th or 6th best shows you how stacked and how deep this year is. Cardcaptor Sakura is super underrated in my opinion. Man, I love Clamp. Initial D and Outlaw Star are pretty good as well. But the top dogs for this year are Cowboy Bebop, the first Pokemon movie, and Yu-Gi-Oh! This is so tough, man. Cowboy Bebop is the best anime of the three. Easily one of the best anime throughout the entire 90s and one of the most influential anime ever. Even 26 years later, people are still trying to copy that aesthetic, that vibe, that slick action, and they can't get it right. Pokemon, the first movie, awful name by the way, but it is a genuinely emotional and heartfelt movie. Like that scene where Ash, man. But I think the #1 spot for 1998 has to go to Yu-Gi-Oh! This isn't nostalgia. I recently rewatched the whole series, filler included from start to end, and it's great. It actually holds up. It's really good. Great story, lovable characters, and of course they're playing the best card game of all time in the show. How can you beat that? Alright everyone, we've reached our final destination, 1999. I'm gonna be honest with you, this year is really weak. We went full circle. This is another weak year just like 1990. I know y'all hate when I call stuff weak. Looking at the full list, I guess I could be missing out. Who knows, Amazing Nurse Nanako might be a hidden gem. Might be better than Attack on Titan. Nah, let me stop playing around even though I might actually check that out. But without Great Teacher Onizuka and Digimon Adventure, this year would be super weak. Lots of shoujo stuff and not the good shoujo stuff. It looks pretty childish. You know, I haven't said anything because I haven't watched them. The 90s had a lot of magical girl shows, like a lot of them. The big ones like Sailor Moon and Cutie Honey came out with movies and shows almost every year, and there were always some new ones coming out. No wonder there was so much magical girl deconstruction stuff in the 2010s. Anyways, the #1 spot has to go to Hunter x Hunter 1999. What an amazing series, what great animation. Hunter x Hunter is so great. As I've said before, if this series was fully completed, it may have been better than the 2011 series. But even as it is, it's the best show of 1999. And that's gonna do it. Those were the best anime of the 1990s. Do you agree? Let me know in the comments and make sure to let me know if I was wrong on anything, even though I'm sure you already did. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, comment. Make sure to click the notification bell to get notified when I upload new videos. Make sure to vote on the polls. Share this video with 20 people and, well, watch more anime.